All right, welcome to another Living Freestyle game dev live stream. We do this twice a week. We work this like a Q&A. I kind of hang out, and office hours, I kind of hang out. If anybody comes in and has questions, we try to help out with those questions. And in the absence of questions or any kind of, people watching the stream, I'm just working on a game, working on my own prototype game, and I'm basically stumbling through that. I am lucky enough to work as a game dev professionally. I currently work at Riot Games in R&D. I get to do a lot of cool stuff at work, but there's a lot of cool stuff I don't get to do, and there's a lot of stuff I don't know. Because if you don't know, game dev is a massively broad category, and there's a lot of things that I never get a chance to play with at work. So I like to stumble through them here in public, I guess. So with that, I do want to give you all a quick heads up. This is actually a pre-recorded stream. I'm trying to be consistent about Sunday nights and Wednesday mornings. I had a conflict come up, so I just kind of pre-recorded this, and we're going through it. So if you're asking questions, make sure that you throw them into the comments, or you can put them in the chat, and I can review the chat afterwards. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And where we were from last time was we were struggling with giving our character, specifically the enemy, the ability or the skill to either shoot a fireball or do a melee attack. Now, what was happening was we could not get any information from the ability component. And so I thought that we might have to do that in code. I talked to one of my engineer friends at work, and he basically confirmed that that was the case. So I went back and I wrote a couple of functions, and I kind of wanted to, rather than have you watch me try to write code on screen, because, I'm not a software engineer, at least not anymore. And I figured I'd just kind of recap kind of where I ended up with. So what happened was after talking to that person and that hint, I went back and I wrote I ended up writing two procedures. I wrote one procedure that was called get activatable abilities. And then what happened was, as I was using this, I realized it didn't give me what I wanted, or I couldn't get to what I wanted there. And so I wrote another one that was called get activatable abilities with tags. Now, this is not rocket surgery. I basically made this up. So you don't have to be a heavy-handed code writer or software engineer to do this. I literally came up here, looked at this procedure, said, oh, here's the parts that I need, copied it, pasted it down here, stripped out the stuff I didn't, and I ended up with two new procedures to do what I want, theoretically. Now, I say theoretically, but mostly I know it's working, which is cool. So let's see here. All right, so we have our two new procedures. Where are we using these? So let's take a look at our enemy. And what we were trying to do is we were trying to get it so the strategize task would actually be able to choose a skill as well. That's our anim or AI tree. And here is our enemy character. And let's see, we want the AI though, not the character. So all right, so what was happening was in here from our character, just to recap, if I get the ability component off of this, from here, get ability. If I get this activatable abilities, dude, I could do nothing with this. I couldn't break it. I couldn't make a raise out of it. I couldn't iterate on it, etc. So that was the problem that we were solving. And so what ended up happening was, then I said, okay, great. I wrote that first procedure called activatable abilities. So if we do this, get activatable abilities, this is cool because this gave me an array of all the abilities. So if we loop on this, from that, we're going to get a gameplay ability object reference. And with that, we can get all of our ability information. We can get the level, actor info, cooldown stuff, everything that I thought I wanted to get from an ability. I also even added a range, like there's an ability range that is now part of that. So all of these things. Now the problem is, once I had that, then the next thing that I wanted to be able to do was I wanted to only get the skills. Well, from here, I went to go get the tags. And so what I did was I said, oh, okay, let's do this. Let's say has all matching tags. Has gameplay tags that match against all the specified tags. Expands to include parent of asset tags. This says the exact same thing, or it has matching gameplay tag. They're both the same, or it has any matching gameplay tag. All right, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to see if I can get the skill. Anything that's a skill. All right, and let's just break this out right now. And what's going to happen is when I come through this loop, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the tag, and if it has the skill tag, and press B to get our branch node, left click. So if that's true, then I'm going to print the string. All right, and the string I'm going to print is the display name. Right, I'm being messy here because this is just a quick temp thing to show you all. All right, we're going to keep that one blue, and let's make this one red. And if it's false, it's going to print the name in red. Okay, so if we play now, when we come in, when our enemy spawns, you'll see that melee, attack, and fireball are both printing red. The next time he goes to strategize, melee, attack, and fireball, they're always red. Why are they always red? Clearly it has the tag. So if I come back here again, I'm like, okay, fine. How about if we specifically choose the fireball? Okay, great. So let's go ahead and play that. I mean, for sure, the fireball is going to be at least blue. Nope, it's not. It's still red. What the heck is going on? It's kind of where I was at this point. And so I basically thought, all right, I can't, this tag stuff is not working, or I don't understand how it's supposed to work. Any of those things end up, I'm in a place where I can't get what I need. So that's why I went back and I wrote get activatable abilities with tags. And in here, I am actually choosing the skill tag. And if we rewire this, what we can do is we can go to this, nope, let's go to here, for loop. And the array that we're going to feed into this is this one. So now what's happening is we're coming from our procedure that we wrote, and we're going to see if it prints or not. And the tag that we're checking for is skill. That's wild. Oh, that's wild. Oh, because I'm still doing this. Good job. Let's not do this. Okay, and let's do this differently. We're just going to print our skill name. It is going to do anything that has a skill tag. This is going to be a little bit different because it doesn't return a boolean. So this is going to print them all blue. Okay, fireballs and melee attacks. But if we update the tag that we're searching for to be just the fireball, it should just print the fireball. And this is how I kind of know this is working. Just the fireball. Just the fireball. So all we get is the fireball. Cool. So what happened was that has tags thing was not working. So that's why we went ahead and we just wrote our own. Okay. So then once we had that, and let's change this back to skill. The hope was that we could then use this to choose which skill we were going to fire based on what strategy we wanted to use. Now, at the same time that this was happening, I discovered something else. On the character, there is, I really gotta rename this dude. On this dude, there is a option for abilities. If we type in ability, I believe it's on this and not the controller. Yes. So default slotted abilities. So I found this attribute. I can't remember if I added it or not. I'm pretty sure I did. Because what happens is this is how I default equip characters, and then on startup, the code goes through and grants all these abilities if they're there. But you'll notice that what I've done is for this default slotted abilities, there's 2 abilities here that I have on my hero character now, Fireball and Melee Attack. So the interesting thing about these is these each have slot numbers and, you know, obviously the values and the item types. So in this case, I'm going with, you know, it's a skill, etc. Now, these should be, there's probably something to be said as far as like this default slotted abilities. This is basically a map of gameplay ability class. We probably don't want these to come in as part of an item, but we'll revisit that in a second. For right now, let's just get into a little bit of what it is. The item system may need the slots. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and look at that. But so what that means though is now as a hero character, if I press the button for my special ability, it does nothing. Why is that? Let's find our do skill. Search for that. If you are just hopping in and I'm not answering a question that you just posted, just a quick reminder, I actually pre-recorded this. So just throw your question or comment in the chat, or I can review the chat afterwards. In fact, I might even be watching the chat depending on my appointment and stuff. But and then we'll try to cover it on Sunday, or I'll get back to you. Do skill does not exist in any blueprint. Well, that's interesting. Let's go here to this guy and see if we can find it this way. Ooh, it lied to us. Okay, that's wild. Let's find where this is being called. Find references. Melee attack, ALS character, do skill. So this is coming in here. We're calling do skill. And once we get inside skill, let's just override this current skill slot. Maybe we're not actually setting that. So we're going to use slot 1 to start with. And now our hero character, he punches. Right? The best punch in the world. Okay, and if we come back here and we change this slot to be 0, then what ends up happening is now he should be able to shoot a fireball. Wait, that's him shooting a fireball. There it is. Now, I believe a 5-second cooldown. So we're able to basically pick which skill is being activated by the slot. Now, here's the trick. How do we know? We need to kind of manage what our current skill slot is, right? And so we probably want to set this somehow. And I believe our Animan character, let's see if there's a skill slot option here. Yeah, we do. We have the current skill slot. The default of this, let's just set the default to skill and 0. My guess is we were not setting that to a value that was correct when we spawned. Yeah, so we gotta wait 5 seconds. There it goes. Cool. There's a collision issue with that fireball, so that's what's going on there. But anyways, so what happened was I found this slotted thing, and then I realized, oh dude, our enemies also have these abilities, or skill slots, effectively. It's an ability slot. And so they can basically fire different abilities depending on which one we want them to shoot from, right? Like maybe they have the ability to do a melee attack or a fireball, and they can choose between the two. And so that's something that, you know, I think sounds pretty cool. Now, obviously, we probably want to cap like their inventory of abilities and slotted stuff and everything. But we'll kind of sort that out as we go. So to get back to where we were, what we need to do in our, there's a couple changes. There's a couple other changes that I made too. And part of this was because I actually recorded this stream and then I realized I wasn't recording the screen again. Super genius move. And so I'm also kind of trying to catch you up on all that stuff as well. So if you recall, this was used to be a melee attack. We're currently, this is in our offensive branch of our ability tree. And so the idea that this is only a melee attack seemed very narrow to me. So I'm going to pop this into a do skill. So I duplicated melee attack, I cleaned this up, and now it's just basically do skill. And the do skill actually does exactly that. It calls do skill on the character depending on friendly fire and all those kinds of things. So if we come into this, you can see here, it's very simple. If we can use any ability, we're going to just activate the ability that's in our current skill slot. Okay, that's cool. However, how do we set what our current skill slot is? Because by default, they're going to use whatever's in slot 0, unless we're updating it. So if we go to our strategize task, we have two things that we're doing in our strategize. We have, if it's an enemy, we're choosing our weapon and we're choosing our skill. So what are we gonna do in this choose skill? This is where this gets interesting. So we're back to kind of, now after all of that, we are finally back to the whole reason we wrote this procedure in the first place. Because we want to be able to go through our skills. And also why the tags, right? Why I needed to write the version with the tags. So we get our character, we get our abilities with the tags of skill. Then just like we did with the weapons, we're going to find out which ability is the highest level. I am thinking this might be the wrong thing to do, but I'll explain to you just from an overall standpoint later. And then basically with all those skills, we're going to go through it and we're going to do a comparison. We're going to see if the distance to the target is less than the range of the ability, or said another way, or as it's displayed here, is if our ability range is greater than the distance to target, meaning we can actually hit them, and this ability level is greater than or equal to the previous one, we're going to set that as our current ability level. And we're also going to set the slot for that ability of our slot index. And then what happens is, so we basically loop through them all, we check to see is it in range, which one's the strongest one, and then we're going to set the slot and the ability level. And then when we come down here, when we finish this for loop, we're going to, from our base character up here, we're going to set our current skill slot to be a skill item and the slot index that we figured out. So to test this, what should happen is if we are in range of the enemy, he should shoot a fireball at us. Now, the fireball range is only 1,000, I believe. So right now what he's doing is he's just punching. He's not, I don't believe he's actually doing the punch that's the slotted one. I think he's doing a different punch. But anyways, if we get in range, all of a sudden he starts shooting fireballs, right? Every 5 seconds, that is. Okay, now if we get even closer, whether or not he's going to punch us or fireball us is going to depend on simply the order in which the abilities were added. And that is simply because of this greater than or equal to. If we change this to be greater than, it's good. Like this is taking the last one that is the same level. This will take the first one. So this one, what should happen this time is this should go, we should get, if we're out of range of melee, we should get the fireball. Okay, if I step back, interesting. He shouldn't actually be shooting that fireball. So what he's doing is he's just defaulting to that. And the only reason the fireball works is because it's far away. But if I get in here and get close, does he start punching me? Nope. All right. I guess I'm full of it. All right, there's something I miss here. So our ability levels are the same. And is the ability range greater than the distance to the target? If that's true, then we're going to set the slot index. And if it's false, you know what? Let's just set our slot index here too. Let's set this to -1. Just to initialize it and see if that changes the way this works. Greater. Okay. So let's see if we get any behavior differences here. All right, that's our fireball. So strategize is not doing what I'm expecting it to do, so we can connect this back in. So this time he's going to start off melee, because that's the last one, and then we'll go back and we'll look at it and figure out what's happening. Because ultimately what we want to do, so he's melee, and then we come within range, goes to fireball, we go out of range, he's doing nothing. That actually makes sense because right now his slot index is probably -1, and we can double check that. So if we go to do skill and we come in here, we can put a breakpoint right here. We'll hit that right away. Take a look at our current skill slot. You can see our item type is skill and our slot number is -1. All right, so with that, that's actually why we end up not doing anything right now. So if we resume and then we walk towards him, we're gonna get within range. He should start shooting fireballs, which he does. Okay, and then we get further in range. The piece here that I don't understand is why he is not melee attacking. So let's see here. If we put this breakpoint in, our slot in this case is 0. All right, so let's break out of this and take a look at our enemy. Not that enemy, this enemy. 0 is fireball. Melee attack has a range of what? Maybe our range is enough. Let's change our range on melee attack to 250, not 25, 250. Let's try this test again. Did we just not have enough range on the melee attack for it to actually work? Now, we might have gotten close enough that he equipped the fireball, so we may get one of those. So let's see what happens. Nope. So he's doing nothing. We get in range, shoots a fireball. We get even closer. Yes, he's punching. Wow. That is close. I mean, you have to be right up there. So let's change our melee attack range to 500. Wait. Oh, wait a second. That didn't change. Effective range and ability range. That's interesting. I wonder which one we're using in our blueprint. All right, here we go again. All right, so he's punching, he's fireballing, and we get in. Come on, punch me. Yes, he's punching me. Okay, cool. So that is working. Now, the thing that I want to take a look at is when we're doing our ability level, ability range. That is coming off of the gameplay ability object. Okay. And so what is the effective range? This is a gameplay, skill base, look at that. Which inherits from a gameplay ability, and this is, so we have two of them. We don't need both of these. Let's find all references to this. Okay, I don't believe you. It's really not being used anywhere else? I thought it was being used in the strategize, shoot, choose weapon. Okay, hold on a second, man. This is like, where's strategize? Choose equipped weapons. We go through these. Look, we get the effective ability range. Effective range. So is the effective ability range defined in code? Gameplay ability.cpp. I'm just taking a quick look at this. Ability range. Dude, where is that defined? GA skill base. Where was that? That's do skill. I want to choose this thing. This is coming off of... Oh, okay. Now I see why it still works. Okay. Our items have effective ranges as well. That's what's going on. Okay. That's different than the abilities range. Oh, that's interesting. Man, there's so many things that are crossed over here that we have to sort out. So let me talk to you a little bit about some of those things. Before I do that, real quick reminder, I pre-recorded this, so if you've asked me a question I'm not answering, please feel free to throw it in the comments below. We can go over that question live on Sunday, or if I happen to be able to monitor the chat while I'm off at this appointment, I'll try to chime in with the answer there. So kind of what I was alluding to as far as some of the fun things we've got to solve a little bit is it has to do with the leveling of abilities and items. All right. Now, if our abilities have level, like an item having a level makes sense to me in my mind, because you get granted the level 99 item, right? That's just cool. But abilities, though, if I can punch somebody, I don't feel like the punch has a level. I feel like the character has a level. And as my character level increases, my ability or the accuracy of the ability or the things I can do with that ability would potentially increase. And maybe that would potentially control the range as well and stuff like that. So we're gonna have to wrap our heads around that a little bit and figure out in the end where those things get defined. And there's going to be some lookup tables that define it based on character level and stuff like that. So anyways, all right, so that explains why we have two different ones and why the effective range is there. But I don't actually think we need the effective range on this thing, or on this skill base. So because there should be a range. Yeah, ability range. We don't need both of these. Let's do this. Compile. Can we play still? We can. Okay, so that just makes it cleaner. We know that when we change the abilities range that it works. So we're too far away. So right now he's not actually doing anything because our slot is -1. So there's nothing in that slot because there is no -1 slot. We get close enough, he starts doing fireballs. If we're within 1,000. There's a fireball. We get even closer, he's going to do melee attacks. Now, this is not going to work, and let me show you how or why. If we change the orders of these and we do the melee attack first, where is it? Melee attack, and we change this to the fireball. What is going to end up happening is as we get closer to the, well, first off, he's going to start off as doing nothing, just like he did before. Or actually, maybe not. Maybe he will just shoot fireballs. Nope. Okay, cool. So we just happen to be close enough that he could load one up. All right, so now if we get close enough, he's going to shoot the fireballs because this is the ability that's in range. But when we get even closer and we're within the 250, remember last time he punched me? Now he's just shooting fireballs at me. The reason that that is happening is because in where we choose this, let's see here, choose skill. Remember I told you that's what this greater than or equal thing is doing? It's checking the ability level, but the ability levels are the same. Fireball and melee have the same ability level of 1, right? The only thing that's different is range. But because they both have the same ability level, and we're not checking to be if we're too close, we're just getting whichever one is the last one in the list, which in this case is fireball. So even though we're standing right next to the dude, he's using a fireball. So really what we want to do is, if the we probably want to put another check in here. And I think what the check is the ability range greater than the distance to target? And let's say that the distance to target is, if it's a ranged ability, do we have that? Is it ranged? Oh, interesting. We can get the ability range or we can set the ability range. We have ranged items. Let's just add a variable real quick. We could do this in code too. I don't know if this is where we're gonna want to do it in the end, but let's just say, let's set is ranged for our skill. Oh, the problem is if we do that, what are we casting to in here? Yeah, this is a gameplay ability item. Let's delete that. Okay, so in order to not have to cast this, what I would have to do is I would have to go back to code to put in a boolean about whether or not this is ranged or not. So let's see if we can think of another way to do this without doing that. So this part we're setting. Now if the distance to the character is, we could do that. We could take the ability range we could say if the ability range is greater than, let's say 500. So we're assuming it's a long range thing. Or we'll say 300. So let's say it's greater than 300. If the ability is greater than 300, and the distance to target is less than. Okay, if the distance to target, hold on, is less than 300, these two things are true. Oh, my brain's starting to hurt. This may have been weird. Okay, so if the ability range is greater than 300, so if it's a long range weapon and our distance to target is less than 300, then we don't want to do this. So if our distance ability, so let's try a not, and an and. Oh my goodness, if this works, it's gonna be crazy because my head hurts. So if these two things are true, all right, so what should happen here is, theoretically, everything should be what it was before. Okay. We may have gotten close enough that he'll fire the first fireball. Nope, he's gonna go melee. All right, he's doing nothing. Perfect. So now we're going to get closer. We get a fireball. Now, remember last time we did this when we got super close, he still kept shooting fireballs, but now he's punching. The reason he's punching is because we are now closer than 300. We have like a short range check in our choosing of skills, which is cool. Okay, and to kind of like solidify the test, just to make sure that we're super clear on like that is actually what's happening and we didn't just get lucky. If we switch these back to this is fireball and this is melee, we save this out. So now what will happen is he's gonna walk away. All right, so theoretically it's just going to stand there, which is cool. We're going to go get in range. We should see a fireball. We do. And then we're going to get even closer and we should see melee. Boom. Awesome. Okay. So I know sometimes the coding stuff isn't like super fun to watch, and that's kind of why I did a little bit of it offline, but it's actually can be really fun stuff because that little snippet of code we wrote, basically, one, there's just the exhilaration of the fact that it actually worked, which is fun. And then with that, now we're able to do what we want to do in here to have our enemies choose the skills. Now, I believe we're not doing any cast to AI here. That's great. Okay, cool. Okay, so we actually made all of this a whole lot smarter from a, what the enemies are doing standpoint. And then if you remember from last time, they also should not shoot fireballs if there's, for the most part, if there's friendly fire in the way. And we can just double check that if we just go to 20 people, 20 enemies, they're just going to spawn in. Oh, we broke something. Oh, interesting. Wild. Okay. Well, once they're gonna settle into their spot. And we're probably gonna want to do this so only the people who are in front and have clear shots and I'm in range should be firing. Right? It's pretty good. It's good. The people in the back are not really doing it. Now, the interesting part of this range test is if they're using lobbed weapons, right? Like we would probably need to figure out how to calculate stuff for like grenades. But overall, that's pretty cool. That's working. They're picking the ability based on their skill, based on the range they're at, and so on. Now, how do we make it so that the skills and the weapons are working together? Let's take a look at our ability tree and see what we're doing. Basically, what was happening was we have this do skill task. If you recall, where's shoot gun? That's over here. This is our shoot task. This is our skill task. And the way we decide is we do a selector if we're ranged or not. Oh. So we may have to change this and simplify it quite a bit. Simply because ranged is no longer about what our character is, right? Range is about the ability that they're actually using at the time. Is that a ranged thing? So we may have to work this entire tree, rework this entire tree. So that what it does is, if the slotted abilities are ranged, we would come into the ranged, and if they're not, then it would go into here. That's wild. Although I don't necessarily think the slotted abilities matter from a range standpoint, because it's still okay. So whether they're ranged or not, do skills gonna work. So we don't have to worry about that one actually. What we do need to worry about though is, what is the free? Okay, here we go. This is what we could do as like a quick example. All right, this is a sequence. If we do skill, what we should, okay, here we go. How does selectors work? Selector, that's sequence. Selector is, it's gonna execute children left or right, and will stop executing its children when one of the children succeeds. And a sequence is going to execute left to right and stop when one of the children fails. So let's try this. Let's throw in another sequence. Okay. And in the sequence, let's drop in a shoot task. And then let's go back to our enemies and give them all their guns back. Load up. Where was that? That was in our event graph. I'm gonna come up here. This gives them a random chance to get a weapon. So let's just, theoretically speaking, just by doing this, nothing should have changed. They should still just shoot at us. And when they have their guns, because they are ranged, they will not do any skills. So I should not see, from ranged characters, I should not see any fireballs. I should get shot. Okay, that seems to be true so far. Yep, totally seems true. Okay, so now let's drop in our do skill. All right, if you're just joining us, just as a quick heads up, I'm not ignoring your questions. I had to take care of some stuff, and this is actually pre-recorded. Hopefully I'm able to at least check out the chat. If not, just throw your questions or comments in the comments, or maybe the chat, and I will come back to that probably Sunday. Goal again is we do these Sundays and Wednesday mornings, and trying to be consistent about that. So we have weapons we're shooting. Let's go back to our ability tree, and in our behavior tree, what we're going to do in this sequence is we're going to do skill. And for now, let's just put, we're going to put a decorator on here. We're going to force success. I'm also going to put a cooldown on this. I'm not sure if I can combine these two, but let's put, theoretically, let's put like a 3-second cooldown on it. So he should shoot, then he should throw a fireball out, and then 3 seconds later he should throw another fireball out. Alright, so let's see what we got. There's a fireball from this blue dude right here. That blue dude. Alright, we're gonna have to wait till they reorganize themselves. Interesting. So these dudes, all right, so this guy right here shot me. Let's wait for his fireball. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's another fireball. Oh, interesting. He does that okay, he can try it every 3 seconds, but there's a 5-second cooldown, which is why we don't see it. Now, if we get close enough, yep, punch. Then he goes back to shooting. Punch. Goes back to shooting. I can't tell if he's shooting though. He is. I'm just so close I can't tell. Dude, that is all working. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Everybody's got random weapons. Everybody's got different skills. They're all executing it. They're paying attention to their buddies. They're not shooting each other in the back. Dude, I feel like this is progress. This is cool. Now, as a kicker for all this, today or yesterday, Epic released Unreal Engine 5. And so with their Unreal Engine 5, we're going to want to be doing an upgrade to Unreal Engine 5. Now, one of the things that they released as part of Unreal Engine 5 is the Lyra project. So I'm actually pretty excited to hop in and see what kind of stuff they've done with the Lyra project, and especially with the AI trees, just to see what the enemies are doing, how all their movement sets are set up and everything like that, and see what kinds of things that we can use from that to shortcut our own project, and even just look at that as an example of different things that we want to do. So that's definitely something we're going to do. Well, probably largely because I just need to upgrade to Unreal 5, because that and also work is started using Unreal 5. So let me save a bunch of this stuff and take a look at where we are. Okay, one of the things that is potentially problematic is this choose skill. And let me see if I can explain it a little bit. This idea of this slot index, it's not, we're making an assumption here that all of the granted abilities are set up for the slot and the index that they're set to. So what I mean by that is, you can see how this fireball is in slot 0 and the melee attack is in slot 1. There's, are we guaranteed that this, and the reason is that this is basically, because this is just a slot number, this could be 2 and this could be 4. But because it's looking at this array index as the slot, right? If I run this game now, they should not shoot fireballs or punch. They may shoot their guns, but the dudes without guns, and there's a few of them, like once they settle in, because they're all going around. If I stand right next to this guy, like they're not doing anything, right? And the reason that that's happening is because, as I said, these slots can be specified. So if this slot number does not match the array index in the way that this is in here, we actually have a problem in the way that we're setting the slot. Really what we want to do is we want to get the slot from the ability, but I don't know if we have access to it. So if we take a look at an array here, no, not an array. Let's see what we got from slots. We got nothing from slot. As far as the ability goes, there's a montage, effects containers. We can get the level. We can get the actor info. We can get all this stuff. Let's see what. Wait, that's coming off of the character, right? So if we just go into our code real quick. Here's our character. Let's see what we got. Ability. Wait, did I spell that right? Alright, this is going to get our abilities with tags. This is just a bunch of ability stuff. You know what? This will be faster if we look at the .h file. Nope. Go to the top. World Wars character. Open the .h file. Okay. So this gets our activated. That's the activate abilities. La di da di da. We can set our character level. We can get our character level, our movement speed, max health, all the usual stuff. Calculate dead. All right. So let's see if it's in protected. Character level. Gameplay abilities. Default slotted abilities. Ability system component. Abilities initialized. Slotted abilities. Turn rate. I don't see. I don't actually see that as a variable. Ability. Get ability level. Oh, that's because it's just getting the variable. It's not actually a function. Let's see here. The song, not so much. Okay, so let's see here. If we go back to here and we refresh our slotted abilities, set up our player input component, level, let's see if we can get level. Character level. Get character level, set character level. Interestingly enough, there is not a single ability level in here. So does that inherit from the ability system component?